somebody that were at a lower salary base.
That's correct.
Correct.
And I was curious, so the sabbatical, the person is going to be attending, is it Wright State?
Wright State, well, yes. Wright State it's an online program.
Oh, okay, so it's an online program. Is that noted in here?
I don't believe it is. I believe it says the campus is Dayton, but I believe it's an online program.
Okay.
There are some contact hours required. Okay. I'm
Right,
getting
and those
ahead
were
now.
in a camp in Nebraska?
Yes.
camp
So
children
I
who are
believe the
visually
200 hours that are going to be, the contact hours are going to take place at Camp Abilities, Nebraska.
Reading Article 13, I don't see anything that specifies that the professional growth must be utilized by the district post-sabbatical. There's no language that
Right. I think.
references
Yeah.
that it must be immediately applicable.
Correct. I think
Right.
past practice has been, we approve things that we think will add value to the organization,
Right,
whether that's immediate or long-term.
right.
Yeah. I think that's a fair statement.
Okay.
So do you have can you shed any light on if the course is going to be taken online, the need for the sabbatical then?
It is an online course, so it doesn't need face-to-face contact. I believe there's a summer requirement. I can't really elaborate more except for the fact that it's an online course. So it could be taken in conjunction with performing the duties current.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure quite the history of the Article 13 and how it's included in there and so forth, but wanted to kind of thank you for bringing this to us. And I kind of imagine that, we have this opportunity to think through these on a case-by-case basis to, again, think really, what's best for the students, what's best in the context of the district, and, where are we going to be a couple of years from now, staffing-wise and economics-wise and need-wise and so forth. And it seems to me like to put some guidelines on sabbaticals, it seems like, really kind of student-centered professional development that is ultimately geared and intended for, improving the context of the district is the ones that I can really get all behind, right? And it seems like if that's sort of the intention of the sabbatical and there's a plan that's proposed that, starts with students and this is kind of where it's headed from a professional development practice, and this is where it's going to, lead us with the district in Granville, maybe economically, but maybe more importantly, just what it's going to do for our students. Those would seem to be the things that would be the highest priority from my perspective. It's nice that it's cost neutral, but I think it could potentially constrain your recruiting efforts as well in terms of who you can get on a temporary basis versus long-term in that role. And I struggle with not, supporting staff fully in all their situations and their requests here and things, but I'm not sure that it feels to me like this was kind of initiated by like, here's what I want to do for students and here's how I'm going to make myself better to support that. And so I'm torn a little bit by that.
Okay. I think sabbatical leave requests are proposals from staff, and we don't necessarily say, hey, this is a need that we have. Who would like to do a sabbatical leave? It's usually coming from the other direction for a variety of different reasons. So I think, we are currently satisfying the need.
And you're satisfied with the services we're getting? There's no, did I miss something in here about where there's not been satisfactory
No, I don't-
provision of the services
I
so
don't think we
far?
can
Or there's something more
Yeah.
beneficial to having a fully endorsed staff member
I would
doing this?
characterize it, this would be a want, not a need.
To have the
This, yes, absolutely. I can't say that we currently are dissatisfied with our service, because I believe that, you know, our PT does a great job collaborating, and our ESC provides services that meet the needs of our students. So is it satisfying a district need? Probably not. Is it satisfying a district want? Potentially. Is that fair?
But it's not as though, I mean, it is a student-centric certification.
Correct.
It's not something that she would be seeking except to work with students, correct?
Correct. Absolutely. Right. I mean, people pursue certifications for gifted. People pursue certifications, reading endorsements. You know, we have staff that pursue a lot of different endorsements.
Right.
And do they typically take a sabbatical to get an endorsement? I mean, or is that something?
Not in my history here. Typically, that's done in the course of maintaining their current employment or position.
In the past, we've had people take sabbaticals that were approved for what?
Professional development.
In the.
No,
yeah,
I know professional development, but a little more specific context.
We had a person pursue an advanced math, I don't know if it was degree or pursued an advanced math program in the past, in the recent past.
Was that a master's?
No.
No?
But it was the training in
It
support
was-
of an existing class that
Correct.
did not
It was-
exist prior to the sabbatical.
Correct. And it was, I think it had a coaching component to it, a math coaching component to it. Any other questions?
Jen, you have anything?
You guys have asked all my questions. Again, so it seems like we are covering what we need to cover in terms of the needs of the students in an adaptive PE situation.
Correct. At a cost of what was
So,
referenced.
I mean, we're not discouraging the pursuing the endorsement, it's the piece of the sabbatical that's the problematic piece, right? Because you're saying it's a want as opposed to a need, but it's, you know, as you were saying, Amy, you know, the purpose of professional development is a worthy goal. It's just the sabbatical piece, which seems to be a little bit out of the ordinary for an endorsement, is what I'm understanding, right? Because we're serving that purpose. It's something that typically can be pursued within the context of current employment.
That would be
Right.
correct.
But I don't see anything in Article 13 that precludes this request,
No.
or
It's-
or even discourages this request.
That's correct. And really, the language is very specific that I don't recommend it. It's just your decision. So even though the language on the board agenda says my superintendent recommendation,
Right.
it really is a board decision.
Why do you think that article was crafted in that way? It's kind of interesting because most of the time things
Probably
come to us
because you've
differently.
had cyclical superintendents. And I hope that you've broken that pattern. But,
We're trying.
yeah,
No, I was just kind of curious because there's not a lot of other things that come to us in this format.
right.
Is there anything specific in board policy that we have that shapes these kinds
I
of
mean, because the
decisions.
article doesn't give a whole lot of guidance.
No,
No, and that, this is from
the collective
the
bargaining.
collective bargaining
Right,
agreement, not
yeah.
necessarily board policy.
But
Correct.
presumably
The CBA becomes,
it obtains.
yeah, a governance document
But we don't
in
have
and of
that.
itself.
Sometimes we have guidelines for things
No.
the way we want to, like Thomas was saying, in terms of, you know, what
The
would
yeah.
compel you to approve a sabbatical leave in
Right.
terms of its benefits for the district,
Right.
going down the road and things like that. So we don't really have those kinds of guidelines that we,
Yeah.
that the board
Correct.
does. Okay.
That might
I
be-
think the reason why most school boards have a sabbatical leave provision is to encourage professional growth for their employees. But it usually comes at some loss. I mean, the person that is requesting the leave is not going to be in the classroom for a year. So, you're going to be hiring a person as a replacement. So that's why boards tend to make those decisions. Now, the language is the language, and so, it really, I wanted to make sure that you had the information that was provided by the staff member and have your questions answered. And at this point, you get to decide.
Any other questions or comments? No?
Okay.
I still just don't quite understand why we can't answer it, why the endorsement equals a sabbatical. That's all
Okay.
that's what I don't
Yeah.
see why is there the need for not continuing to work while the endorsement is pursued, particularly if it's an online, because obviously you would support the reimbursement of the costs for that endorsement pursuant.
Potentially, given the pot of money that's in the tuition reimbursement, it's not
Right.
one-to-one, potentially.
But we
Right.
would attempt to do that, right?
Sure.
You know,
Correct.
So that's kind of just why the disconnect for me is I don't quite understand what the
The need for the sabbatical.
piece there is. So.
I like your comment. I really agree that regardless of the outcome here, we do need to kind of frame some guidelines, right? Because, I think the concept of sabbatical is a powerful one to, go and get professional development. And I think that's a positive thing. And so I don't know what guidelines we can put around that, but it could be a small
Well,
session that we could put together.
If there are guidelines, they would have to be framed in the next negotiation cycle. So, we can talk as a governance body to say, these are things that we would like to add to Article 13, but I can't change Article 13 without either a memorandum of understanding or changing it in negotiations.
But even if we can just mention
Have that
to some
conversation
extent
as a
what
board.
resonates with us.
Sure.
And how to make a powerful proposal that is going to be supported.
Mhm.
I think that's going to be important for us to somehow figure out how to reflect to the staff in support of these in the future.
Okay. Anything else?
Good? Take the roll, please.
Ms. Dees?
Aye.
Dr. Rentel?
I think I'm going to have to say no.
Mr. Miller?
No?
Dr. Corman?
No.
The next item is 10.05, approval of resolution for the purchase of a school bus. Once I get a motion, I can talk more about that.
Second.
Okay.
Or do you want me to-
Mike,
Yeah.
you can share?
This year we bought 2 school buses, or at least purchased 2 school buses so far. We're planning to replace one more next year on the same type of agreement, a lease purchase agreement. But if we take the action now, we can get it at the current price rather than waiting until after July 1st when we have to wait for the new bids to come out. We may pay a higher price. We will not start making any payments till next fiscal year on the bus. So essentially, we're making the purchase for next year, but we're able to do it now to take advantage of the 14-15 pricing instead of the 15-16 pricing for the bus.
Any questions? Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Dr. Rantel?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Dr. Corman?
Aye.
The next item is 10.06, handbooks for the 15-16 school year. We have our 4 handbooks. Really, I want to, oh, go ahead, I'll wait for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Just a reminder that most of the changes are annual updates, and then we did add the provision around student services and clearly articulating a pathway for parents to access student services and intervention assistance and student services that are available to them. So that's an addition that's vastly different than what was in our handbooks previously.
Any questions? This is the second read, right?
This is the second read and the adoption. Yeah.
Yep. Any questions? Take the roll, please.
Dr. Rantel?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Dr. Corman?
Aye.
Okay, we have 10.07, which is the hiring of the assistant principal for GES, the shared position. Once I get it here. Yep.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, I'm making the recommendation to approve Annette Lasco, who is currently a building principal in another school district, New Lexington. She is currently a middle school principal, and she is interested in joining the Granville staff and being a support person for our elementary and intermediate school. We're very excited to have her. She has 3 years of administrative experience as a building principal, which is fantastic. And to come in a support position as an assistant principal for us is we're getting a gem, and we're very excited about that. I had one more thing that I wanted to say. Oh, remember, this is the replacement of Mr. Rogers, retired in December, and, so this is the replacement, although delayed. Travis and Gail have been serving in that capacity alone, so.
Any questions? No? Take the roll, please.
Dr. Rantel?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Dr. Corman?
Aye.
The next item, actually, there's 2 items, 10.08 and 10.09. We have the Human Resources Secretary for the 14-15, the remainder of the 14-15 school year.
So moved?
Are you doing one at a time?
I'm going to do one at a time, but I just wanted to frame them that they're connected.
So this is for 10.08?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Marie Krieger is currently our facilities secretary, and she is moving into the HR secretary position. Remember, we accepted Kay Eckleberry's resignation for retirement purposes again at our last meeting, and Marie has done a fantastic job in facilities, and we're excited to bring her into the HR world in Tanya's department. And so this first contract will finish up this current school year, and then the next item is for a longer-term contract.
Any questions? Take the roll, please.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Dr. Rantel?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Dr. Corman?
Aye.
Okay. Item 10.09 is what I just explained, so.
So moved?
Do you have a second?
Second.
I think there's no questions. Take the roll, please.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Dr. Rantel?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Dr. Corman?
Aye.
Okay, the next item, 10.10, is to hire a school psychologist for the 15-16 school year. This is, and I'll I'll elaborate once.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, we are recommending Chad Timmons for a one-year contract. This is a replacement for our Jill Riggs, who is resigning for retirement purposes. So Chad is in the audience, he's right there. Chad is coming to us from Pickerington, and we're very excited for him to join our student services team. We have a wealth of talent on our POPs team, which includes psychs, PT, OT, speech, and language, and I think Chad will be a great complement to that.
Any questions?
Great.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Dr. Rentel?
I, with an apology for having to sit so long for the hear.
Dr. Corman?
Aye.
Motion passed. Congratulations. Welcome aboard. 1011 is the board policy adoption. You can see the list of changes to the board policies that we have in place. And most of them, I did a presentation on last board meeting. In the first reading are really related to legislative changes, so there's not much permissive language change.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Amy. Amy and Katie. Yeah. I started talking before
We're
I
talking
should've.
lower and lower each time on purpose.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Good test.
Yeah.
There's no time. Any questions about the policies? Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Dr. Rentel?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Dr. Corman?
Aye.
Okay, the next area is our consent agenda. So once I get a motion, 11.01A through C4.
So moved.
Second?
That was not me.
Yeah. All right, so I'd like to call your attention to a couple of different things. We have quite a list of donations that are coming from a variety of different sources. I'd call your attention to those. We appreciate the donations that come in to support the work that we do. I'd call your attention to specifically the K-6 PTO that has done great work fundraising in the past, and we have $10,000 going to the book room for the GES and $3,175 to GIS. So we appreciate our support organizations and what they provide for our students. I'd also call your attention to our retirements. We have several bus drivers, Flo, Paula, and Ken. Flo has retired a couple of times, and this one I think might stick. So we appreciate their service to the school district. And the other person that I'd like to call your attention to is John Bennett. John Bennett is retiring this year, and at the beginning of this year he said, "This is my 43rd first day at Granville Schools," because John went to school here and then came back and worked here for all 30 years of his career. In the industrial tech department, we have had 2 teachers for the last 64 years. So the person previous to John was in that position for 34. So John has done a great job, not only coaching in a lot of volunteer activities, and I want to make sure that we recognize him right now, but we'll also recognize him at the retirement reception at the end of the year. And then we have a couple of other resignations. One that I will call your attention to is Deb Lancashire, who is a 6th grade teacher and is resigning and taking a position for foreign travel. She's going to be a teacher in China, I believe. So we wish her good luck and thank her for her service to Granville Schools.
Questions or comments? Of the consent agenda? The difference between the GIS and the GES book room?
I believe they've already donated and allocated additional funds. I believe that they're split down the middle.
Okay.
I just think that's what GIS dedicated to their book room.
Okay. So they have money going?
Correct. Other places.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. No other questions? Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Dr. Runtel?
Aye.
Dr. Corman?
I just heard doctor, I'm sorry. Aye.
Thank you.
You can borrow it if you want.
Just got up really early this morning, so it's not, okay, finances?
Yeah, the financial report, and just a couple of other small things I have. You have a motion, I'll go through the financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Once again, it's actually a fairly boring month. Those are always good. Everything came in right on target. The only issues, we had some issue with delinquencies as far as property taxes. I'm actually meeting tomorrow with the county auditor and county treasurer to talk about strategies for a couple of the delinquencies and also some issues with valuations. But even with the delinquencies, new delinquencies, we got more delinquency payments than we were expecting. So I think overall, the property taxes settlement came in about $30,000 above what we had been expecting, which again, it's out of over $8 million, so 30,000 is a reasonable level. If you look at the spending year to date on page 7, you'll see, oh, that's revenue, wrong page. Wrong page. Page 10, you'll see year-to-date spending is 0.1% off of estimate. The main thing, as we've been talking about several times during the years, our retirement and benefits, primarily our insurance is running ahead of estimate, and that was because of open enrollment back in October, where we picked up some people we hadn't been counting on coming onto our insurance. But even with that, again, expenditures are right on target. They'll probably get better as the year goes along because of when the state released the new our payments using this year, the number of students that we have going to community schools is down about 40% from last year, down from about 35 down to under 25. And so we had about $100,000 drop in our amount of community school deduction, but they had already withheld more from our deduction for the year than we actually have. And so they actually paid us back in the last 2 payments where we got a $21,000 payment back in March. We got another $2,500 or $2,600 in our first April payment, and we'll have no more deductions the rest of the year for that. So that'll help us in our purchase services. Obviously, that's a good thing. And actually, a number of the kids who we do have deductions for are actually only part-time and have either come back to the school or have gone to homeschooling, and so I'm not anticipating them coming back onto our deduction for next year. The only 2 other items that I want to just briefly discuss, and then we can vote on this. I want to give you an update on the bond refunding. We had the Moody's call last week. The Moody's report will be out on Thursday. We will have, at 9 o'clock, we get a copy of the report. We have 2 hours to review it for factual issues only, and then it will be released.
Are you sure it's on Tuesday? Tomorrow?
No, you got to send you an email. It got moved back to Thursday.
Oh, okay. All right.
I actually did see the analyst who did the recall. I actually saw him Thursday at the WASCO conference. I offered him $5 to raise our rating. That didn't go very well.
Yeah.
But he did assure us.
He denied it. Yes. I just want to be clear.
He did assure us though that there's no issues with the rating. That we'll maintain the rating that we do have. and which I expected because we're in a lot better shape than we were when we had the update last year. We've moved the date of the bond sale up 2 days. The sales will occur on the 28th rather than the 30th, which is a week from tomorrow. Interest rates are still hanging in there, still a little bit below where we were anticipating. They stay down there for another week. Or even get lower for the next week. The savings that were in the sheets that I sent around, we will realize, which is about $4 million in bond payments over the next 15 years, with a net present return of about 10.25%, which is really more than double the normal return on a refunding. So again, I believe we made the right choice to do it now rather than to roll the dice and wait until September and hope interest rates didn't change. So I think we're happy with where we are in the process. The last thing I want to point out, in the back of on the last page of your packet, each of you have a letter from the Treasurer of State, Josh Mandel, about the new online checkbook that he is asking local schools and local governments to join with him. The state has already done this and put their entire checkbook, and honestly, I'm not quite sure what that means, but I believe it will let people search every transaction that the state has undertaken. And they have asked that the schools and local governments participate in the project, and basically at no cost to us to essentially upload our checkbooks, so to speak. And again, I don't have the details of that, but the letter from the treasurer is asking us to be among the first to go along with that. It's a discussion, you can read it, think about it. It's a discussion we can have at another time. It's not something we have to decide tonight.
The only caution that I would add to that is a lot of times in our checkbook activities, student activities and fundraising monies that they've created funnel through us. So some of the things that they might purchase, a person from a taxpayer perspective might say, why are they spending money on this? But it's not actually taxpayer money. So there are some things like that that I would like to be able to say, have some caveats that say if it's from a 200 fund, that's a student activity account versus taxpayer revenue. So there are some cautions that I would put out there just from a communication perspective. But in general, transparency is good.
Yes.
Would that imply more maintenance work on your and your staff's part?
I believe that this is something that would have to be done by LACA, because LACA really houses all of our historical data, and there would have to be some type of a process where they would be the ones uploading our historical payment records and check records onto the treasurer's website. It's not something, we don't even have that.
So when it goes down every so often, like the email and the internet, it won't be our issue, right?
So this is all public record stuff
It's
that
all
could be accessed in other ways theoretically,
record.
right?
Anybody could come in right now and ask us, to produce copies of every check that we were, and we would electronically do that through LACA. And so there's nothing in here that's not public record. It's just making it more accessible
for people like Mike who would want to go online.
No, but I guess also that's like, would we be seen as not being transparent if we were not an early adopter of this process? Because generally it seems like when this information becomes more available, like all the teacher salaries, right? People get a hold of those and it creates more fuss and time and issues than seems to benefit from my perspective. Because people look at these little transactions or the salary of this person, which is all public record information, which is all well and good to have available. Right, but I'm not sure it really is student-centered.
How many more people are going to be looking at it that wouldn't want to already do it anyway?
But if it's a lot easier to get to, right, and it's at a website that you can click and see how much the Granville School District spent on the prom or the whatever, I don't know what, right? It could be fodder for conversations. And
Yeah, 'cause-
again, I want to be completely transparent, and we are anyway, right? But I'm not sure if there's going to be a perception of like, oh, you guys are trying to hide something.
Conversations I had with other treasurers last week, someone was a little concerned that it's going to show up that they've spent money at Victoria's Secret.
Yeah.
And why is the school spending money at but it
Yeah.
had to do with some activity
Yeah.
where they needed something, I don't remember the circumstances, but,
It's a student activity.
yeah.
But they went on a
Yeah.
professional tour at
We're
some
not going
place,
to
and they
name,
bought lunch
we're not
there,
going to
whatever.
name the school district that that conversation took place in.
I-
Right, so I can
don't-
only
Yeah.
imagine the conversations that
But, yeah,
ensued.
but you will see, there will be things like that that are going to show up that,
People might,
yeah.
Say-
Or why did you write a check, why are you writing checks to Magic Mountain?
Yeah,
Well, it was an after prom activity a year or 2 years ago, and we wrote a check to Magic Mountain, and stuff like that is gonna show up. But, again, it is public record, so.
just creates, so, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we need
Thank you.
to take a vote on.
Yeah, unless there are any
the,
other questions about the
financial
actual
report.
financial report.
Bring us back to reality.
Okay.
Sorry, to bring us back to reality, but take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Dr. Rentel?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Dr. Cornman?
Aye. I'd like to take a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Amy, can you say that again?
faster.
I thought twice would be enough.
Take a roll.
Did someone second it?
Yes,
Katie.
Katie did.
Oh, who wrote it?
Maybe.
Amy,
Sorry, okay, I missed that.
Mutt and Jeff over here.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Dr. Rentel?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Dr. Cornman?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Adjourn.